way that Kenya has. So it's a bit more of an uphill battle there, but you know, I think Steve was able to see that when communities are mobilized, when they have confidence in their own capabilities, when they are really organized and establish good relations with local government system, that people can achieve wonderful things in their communities. And we've seen rapid improvements in health, in agriculture, in education, in you know, all the key aspects of life when communities are well organized and where the government does respect and eagerly listens to the voices of as Steve was saying, of youth, of women, of those who have not previously had voice. So, you know, over my dining table, we have this little poster from Latin America that says the only safe community is an organized community. And that is clearly the work that you are all doing and is happening in so many other countries across Africa.
Absolutely, John. And it was a very interesting experience, really, and quite lots of learning. And I hope that we can get to, you know, adopt some learnings from the epicenter model in Uganda and see how best we can utilize that here. It's really, when you talk about sustainable development, I mean, I saw that real time, and that was really exciting. Yeah.
Good. And I don't know if my colleague, I think my colleague Gunjan was also, who was there with you.
Gunjan is in, she just texted me right now. She's at the airport in Blantyre heading to Dar.
Oh, okay.
So she relayed her apology. She won't be able to join us.
Aha, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was her first visit to Africa in general. So she was really delighted to be there on that trip with you.
Yes.
She's my colleague, and she was a women's activist, a journalist, an author, and then was working on the Planning Commission in India before the Indian government got rid of planning commissions. But she's now devotes herself full time to the movement for community-led development.
So if you're joining us, we're just waiting for the governor to join us momentarily, and then we'll kick it out officially from there. Yeah, but we appreciate.
Too bad we're not in person. We could have had a musical interlude while we were waiting.
Oh yeah, like we did at the launch.
Yes, right.
Yes. Celine, do you want to say some words as we await the governor?
Thanks. No, thanks, Steve. I think you allow me to mute my video most of the time because of stability of the internet. I think for me, as a co-chair in this initiative, I'm very happy to find time today to be here. I actually did a lot of speed work today from the field where I was just to be here. So I'm looking forward to listening more to what has been happening, but also the feedback that we've been getting. I think we really appreciate, so I'll be making more one or two at my closing remark, but really want to appreciate the leadership that has been provided by John globally, but also Steve in country, and the colleagues who have really been of encouragement and really inspiring. So we appreciate, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. If you have a question or any comment you want to make, please feel free to do so as we, buy some time. Yeah. Or if you're joining us for the first time, I see we have a few people joining us for the first time. Maybe we could utilize this opportunity to just have them introduce themselves and maybe where they work, and then yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening, Wema.
Yes, I am Wema Toyua, a journalist working with Ghetto Radio here in Nairobi, and I'm glad to join you today for this meeting. And I look forward just to listen to the governor in what he will talk about in terms of the collaboration between the county government of Makueni and the MCLD-Kenya. Just to hear from him on the good things that you have done now that you've just highlighted, still a number of things that you between you, the MCLD-Kenya and the county have done. So I just look forward just to hear from him. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Wema, for joining us. And we're happy to have Ghetto Radio represented here as well. Who else want to share some words? If you're joining us for the first time, please feel free to just introduce yourself. It'd be good to know you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jane Anyango from Polycom Development Project based in Kibera. I'm not joining for the first time, but I'm happy to be part of this process and this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jane, and you're doing some great work in Kibera. I've been following your posts and all that. That's really great stuff around child empowerment and stuff like that. That's really awesome. Who else would like to say something?
Hello, everyone.
Yes, Kenneth.
My name is Kenneth Moredi. I am a radio journalist working at a vernacular radio station. I'm glad to be here today. It's my first time joining, and I'm really excited to get to learn what really community-based kind of communication and processes goes through. And I'm really glad because I can relate to this since I work in a vernacular radio station where we deal with, and our audience mostly is based on the people on the ground. So I'm really excited and hope that I will get to learn a lot from the governor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the media, you are a very important part of this process.
Oh, and Steve, the governor has just connected.
Yes, I can see that. I can see that. I see Joanne wanted to say something as the governor said so. Yes, Joanne.
Yes, thank you, Steve. My name is Joanna Bakulo. I am happy to be on this platform today. And for me, I admire MCLD-Kenya, how you work with the local government, how you're relating and collaborating. It is really admirable. In Uganda, we are not yet there working exactly with the local government or even the central government, but we are into the civil society organizations and we have really gotten into the systems. But I really admire the collaboration that MCLD-Kenya has with the local government. And I'm happy to be here. And I thank you.
Thanks very much, Joanna. That's my colleague, Joanna from Uganda. She leads the MCLD chapter in Uganda. Thanks, Joanna. Right. I think we lost the governor again. Yeah, he's here.
Hello, hello.
Oh, hello, Governor.
Yeah, sorry, we have a bit of a challenge. We are trying to do our laptop, but I'm now on my iPad. So we'll be, I think we can continue, but we'll be good in bigger space very soon.
Okay, Governor. We appreciate that you are able to join us today.
Thank you, everybody. Asanteni.
Thank you very much.
And Governor, your iPad is working very well. It's very clear.
Yeah, it's so clear.
Okay, John. Now we are better. Yeah, now I have the computer now,
No,
so it's now.
Great. So I guess we won't take without much ado. I want to welcome you all for today's session. And thank you very much, Professor Kibwana, for finding time to join us today. We know it's a very, very busy season for you, but even with that, you are able to find time to join us. It just speaks to your passion for community-led development, and we are really honored and grateful to have you today. So I know I had given some brief overview about MCLD for the other group just before you joined, but just to give some brief context of why we're here today. So MCLD and the Movement for Community-Led Development, we signed an MOU last year, 30th of September. And so it is an MOU that is seeking to see how best we can collaborate to deepen CLD. And so sometime early this month, a team from Makueni and a team from MCLD-Kenya held a 2-day workshop to just unpack the MOU and develop a joint work plan for this year. Maybe I should have said that the MOU is a 5-year MOU. And so it means every year we will have, annual work plans the next 5 years. So we had one that was developed with the team, and I must thank ZP and team for their dedication and support throughout this entire process. Yeah, and something else that we are also doing, that we've started actually doing, that is also captured in that MOU, and I think I should mention, is also the Makueni CLD school. And as a movement, we are collaborating with the county to see how best that can happen. And like I had mentioned here, it's going to be one of a kind in the country, one of a kind in the region and in the continent, and one among the very few across the globe. And so we are very excited about this opportunity. So today, my colleague, my counterpart Zippy, will be presenting the draft MOU, and they're very exciting activities that we jointly co-created. And also later on, my colleague John will be issuing some updates about how far we are in terms of the Makueni CLD school curriculum, because that is an area that we started developing about 4 or so weeks ago. And so, yes, that's pretty much it. And without much ado, I'm going to hand it over to Zippy to maybe introduce her team and then take it up from there. Zippy, if you can hear me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve, and good morning to those on the other side, and good afternoon to those on this side of Africa. Along with me is the President of the People's Government, Isaac Mowo, the President Lady, who is Josephine, and officers from the Office of the Governor, the Chief of Staff, Chris Yulu, Edward Mwendwa, and officers from the Public Participation and Civic Education Unit, representing our Chief Officer and the Minister. Therefore, we have Bernard Wambua, we have Lillian Muema, Jacinta Mumbua, and Kimaili, David Kimaili. And I hope others would be joining us during the section. Thank you.
Thanks, Zippy. Maybe you could just pick it up from there and proceed with the presentation if you're ready.
Yes, thank you. Maybe requesting Steve, are you able to upload for me so that it's visible as I just take us through?
Okay, then let me just project that in a moment.
Yes, I had written that earlier. I guess you had not seen that. But meanwhile, we are just about to share the first year's work plan as agreed upon. Of course, what we are sharing is the broader work plan for us to appreciate what was the content of the MOU.
Can you see my screen?
And therefore,
Yes.
yes, I can see that. So probably, does everybody else see the screen?
Yes, Director, we can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. So the first focus area is on raising the profile of community-led development in Makueni within the framework of the SDGs. Of course, that was the spirit of the launching, as Steve stated. I will just be sharing the brief activities that we have thought through. They are detailed, they are available for all of us. But the key focus areas here is that we would like, and we have begun, developing the curriculum for community-led development, which would actually be the backbone of capacity building and capacity development and the systemic changes that we are seeking. And from there, we would have other various trainings that we mapped during the workshop training. And they are trainings in terms of how do you do assessments for community-led development, the training of the community-based trainers so that it is purely community-led and community-driven, having masses of communities that are trained to ensure they train the rest of the communities, and they are the champions of the agenda at community level. Capacity building of the departments and staff that are directly working with communities for the model. Capacity building of the communities is seen in other tiers in terms of the capacities of the community to govern themselves, the capacities of communities for what we call good governance and accountability, and the leadership they need to be imparted in terms of the leadership skills. We have seen that even when staff go to the field, they are schooled in various sciences, but staff need to acquire the right public relations capacity in order to know how to approach communities, how to talk to communities and empower communities in a way that is more mutual, in a manner that is more relational than just technical and capacity level interactions and so forth. So there are key trainings that we saw were important, as well as the gender mainstreaming, the element of conflict resolution, the element of community-based resource mobilization, because we have a lot of international NGOs, bodies and donor organizations that are willing to fund directly the communities, and therefore the communities require the capacity to take the agenda of community-led development forward by blowing up the resource basket for community-led development and continuing to help communities be trained on how do you collaborate, how do you learn, that model of continuous learning and adaptation of the new models and the phases of community-led development as it is being demonstrated across the globe. And also the area of training communities in terms of themselves as organized groups and also the community-based organization groups. Makueni, for example, has a lot of CBOs. It has a lot of associational lives, people in welfare, people in funeral associations. They need now to be taken to the next level. What can they do by themselves for themselves? And therefore, training around that management of the social life and what outputs the social life can begin or can bring for their self-sustainability and self-development. So the other area of focus was the area of organizing and participating in seminars, in events and meetings that would enable us to continue raising the profile of community-led development. The reason why we need to do this, because one of the purposes for being so strong in Makueni is to ask ourselves, how can the other subnationals adopt the model in Makueni County? And therefore, we need to participate more in media, participate more in social media, participate more in organizations and even organizing events by ourselves so that we have the space to ensure that more counties, more governments in Africa, and more interested small-based organizations are able to study from this model. And some of the activities that we have planned is to see whether we can continue hosting joint quarterly seminars and webinars with specific professionals in the community-led development movement. And as you have seen today, we have representatives from Uganda. We have representatives from various agencies and organizations in Kenya. And I'm sure others that were supposed to be in this meeting that are not there. If we continue discussing and dialoguing about this, then the possibility of growing the community of practice then is more viable. And that again goes along publications. We have continued to say we need to publish everything that we are doing about Makueni. The other day, there was a publication about Makueni County Governor who launched and commissioned the CDD programs that we have been done across the county. The People's President has prepared that publication about his speech on the community-led development in the Day for the People's Forum, and so forth. Those kind of publications, however small they are or large they are, they assist in creating awareness to donors and to recipients and into organizations that are going towards the community-led development. That is alongside exchange programs with Uganda right now, exchange programs that are of interest, the Mexico program, to just find out what is happening, and in other places in Kenya, just to find out what other people are doing and what Makueni is doing. Of importance is the exchange program with the Mexico School for Community-Led Development, which we want to see the perspectives and how they have been able to model the school and the outputs and the outcomes thereof, so that we continue building the understanding here and growing it to meet the international standards. And we agreed that annually we continue to hold annual learning forums for the community-led development, so that we are not always referring to Ivor House, where we did the 2019 launch. We continue to mobilize learning and knowledge management through an annual follow-up forums at the national chapter level, and induction. And this is especially because we are going through transition as a county government. Soon after transition, we anticipate to be supported by the national movement to ensure that the entire leadership that is coming together with the chief officers, the CECs and the governorship and the county assembly are now created the awareness in terms of what is this that is called community-led development and how to take it forward. The third focus area is the focus area on enhancing research, documentation, innovation in the area of community-led development. And here we are saying it is that continuity for knowledge management, that continuity for learning from each other and sharing lessons that we have learned. What is working in Uganda? What is working in Mexico? What is working in other CBOs that are practicing community-led development here in Kenya? What is happening in the subnationals, as someone has indicated this afternoon? Then we seek to establish what we call CLD local research working groups. And these are communities that are organized at the sub-ward level via the sub-ward development committees, trained with the skills to be able to research simple community research that can be undertaken, and people can be helped to lead the research and to regain from the results of the research to help us going forward. Then monthly publications, of course, as a way of publishing the research in new areas. Seeing that globally, community-led development is a new phenomenon, if we continue documenting and a higher level of documentation through research, then it continues to get the buy-in of everybody in the field of development. And the last focus area was the focus area on, the second last, sorry, it is on enhancing community financing, advocacy, collaborations, and partnerships towards fundraising for CLD initiatives. Sharing from the context of Makueni, we have seen the increment. We began by just simple 6 million to 12 clusters that were piloting, that grew to 168 million this year, where 357 clusters were implementing. And right now in the current budget, we have seen the amounts go to 200 million commitments by the county government that is going to be implemented in the year 2022-23 by the next government. And therefore, that exponential growth is what we are seeking. And saying that, given the limited finances that come to the subnationals, it is high time we begin to develop a mechanism for fundraising and collaboration with other but development-minded people in the community-led development, so that we can see the increment in finances. So what we seek to do is continue advocacy so that we see the improvement of the county budget as we have seen right now, but also joint proposals that are through the community, for the community, through the support of the national secretariat, to see how we can attract more donors to support and complementing what the subnational is able to do, as well as the advocacy for the establishment of the school for community-led development. Very important, and it is at the heart of the government. The fifth one is therefore the collaboration towards the establishment of the County Center for Devolution, by and large, the county school for community-led development. And we are happy to inform that we had little funding in the last budget, but in this very particular budget for 2022-23, the government has funded in a manner that will ensure the establishment and operationalization of the county school for community-led development. And we are hoping even by the time of the exit of the governor, we would spare an opportunity to lay the foundation probably or mark where the Department of Devolution has thought that this is the place where that establishment will be, just as a way of strengthening the initiative going forward. The next is adopting and developing the CLD curriculum, and that will become so clearer in the presentation of John Conrad, because we have continued to do, or rather to expedite the curriculum development. The other is the visiting or virtual exchange with the Mexico School of Community-Led Development. We need to develop an award scheme. In the very first attempt for communities here in Makueni to do community-led development, the governor gave certificates to every leadership of the community-led development that performed very well. That brought excitement among communities. It brought a greater buy-in of the communities, and therefore right now it's no longer a piped dream. Communities are more empowered and are taking the agenda in their hands in terms of this is the way to go for community-led development. And therefore we need to, one of the things we want to do is to look at a criteria and an award scheme to see how we shall continually be awarding this best performing for the purposes of improving community performance. And then we need to develop a capacity development framework, which is mainly generally demonstrating, and because we have many donors in capacity building, they can flag in and see where they can assist. They can see the capacity gaps in Makueni, and they can run with the particular areas because the framework is clear and is available for all. And lastly is the capacity development for the staff, because the curriculum, once it's ready, it has to be passed on to particular staff who will run as the lead TOTs, then are able to capacity build and train the community-based TOTs, who will therefore then run with the opportunities to train the grassroots of Makueni in the curriculums for the period of time that is stipulated by the curriculum. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, ZP, for that comprehensive presentation about the joint work plan that was co-created sometime early this month. And you can see the very exciting activities that I believe with this commitment from both sides, if implemented, then we will have really some great outcomes out of this partnership. So I think with that, I would like to invite my colleague, John Conrad. John Conrad, for those who are joining us for the first time, is the Executive Vice President of the Global Hunger Project. He's also the co-founder of the Movement for Community-Led Development. And John will be delivering some remarks around what we've been able to do around the CLD school so far in terms of the curriculum development. So John, over.
Great, and maybe if you could stop sharing your screen, then just a minute, I'll share mine. I'm really pleased to have heard Zippy's presentation. One of my goals in life is to make sure every finance minister in Africa listens to Zippy, because she makes it so clear the advantages and the fundamental importance of having every African voice every African hand coming to the work of creating a wonderful self-reliant future in Africa. So Professor Kibwana, maybe you can find a way to get all the finance ministers to sit down with Zippy and yourself, and I really think it could make a huge difference. Your Excellency and friends, it's just such a privilege to be here. Kenya has been such a pioneer in political liberation and devolution. I'm going to show a few slides on to express why I'm so excited about this curriculum being pioneered by the Kenya colleagues. Let me, okay, there we go, Chrome tab, okay.
Steve, I think John is muted. I think
Yes.
John is muted.
Yes, he's muted.
Yes, John, please.
Sorry, when I shared my screen, it muted me. Oh, that's terrible. Let me share it again without it doing, okay. Yeah, see there's. Okay, now I'm sharing and not being muted at the same time. Okay, so as I was just saying, this African Charter for Decentralization has come into force from the AU, but so far Kenya is only the country that has really embraced this commitment to empowering its people and devolving funds. So as was mentioned, the inspiration for this came from two of the very lowest income states in all of Mexico, in Chiapas and Oaxaca, where they designed and implemented the School for Community-Led Development. That phrase in Spanish means bringing hands and voices to the work, citizen participation in local government. And that is, it's been very successful in bringing together grassroots indigenous people and their local governments and really transforming their mindset. So there's this mindset everywhere in the world that the government is in charge and that we are just their subjects. And so transforming from being a subject to being a true citizen, one whose voice is listened to, that citizens are in the lead, is the goal of the school. As mentioned, and I really want to acknowledge the governor and the county of McQueeney for committing funding for infrastructure that can house this kind of community level training. The Hunger Project's epicenter strategy that Steve recently visited also has communities mobilized to create infrastructure that not only provides a training center and a center for community mobilization, but it also, you know, the community gets involved in constructing it. And as one of my mentors once said, we build the road and the road builds us. You know, communities who take charge and succeed in their own development, their minds are transformed forever. So looking at the Mexico experience, and the Mexico team has done Zoom calls with Zippy and Steve and the working group of in Kenya. We've identified a curriculum of 11 sessions over a 6-week period, 2 sessions a week from 10 to 1 in the day. that would allow, you know, people easy travel time to these community training facilities. It starts with a real orientation, an awakening to people's own understanding of their own voice and power, and an awakening of that spirit of true partnership between government and citizens. Then going into a session on community-based planning. What's a good framework that communities can use to develop their own plans? A session focusing on gender equity and social inclusion, so that people recognize the voices of youth and women and others whose voice has not traditionally been heard, and the value of that. Then how do you mobilize people to take that kind of mass action that we saw in that previous slide? I mean, there's so much that people can do, and sometimes they have kind of don't realize how much they could achieve, even though they're doing all the work of taking care of themselves and their family every day. Then, as Zippy mentioned, a whole session on resource mobilization, because there are resources. USAID has made this bold, transformative commitment to having at least 25% of their money going direct to community-based organizations, to having half of their funds being community-led programming. That's an unbelievable transformation. So, but then how to do it? And Zippy's comments were really apropos to this, because, you know, as I've listened to communities in other parts of Africa, yes, there's sometimes funds, but those funds never cover the work of applying for those funds. So, you know, how can there be small funding, community-led funding that could make cover just the costs of developing a proposal, of traveling maybe to wherever you need to travel to present that proposal to funders? So it takes a little bit of money up front for communities to be able to mobilize resources, as well as knowledge that there are already resources in the community that can be mobilized. The sixth session is on community wealth building. What kinds of enterprises and economic development can our community succeed at? How can we work together to achieve those that economic progress in our community? 7, disaster risk reduction and preparedness. How can we prepare for droughts, for climate change, for all of those things that push people back into poverty? Then number 8 is citizen-led governance. What is the machinery for normal citizens to effectively partner with the machinery of government? Then 9, data for the people. This is another revolutionary curriculum item, because normally those people who evaluate development, it's an extractive industry. They come in and they steal data. I mean, they generate data, but then the community never sees it. And yet the #1 audience for any development data should be the people themselves. You know, there were epicenters in Malawi that discovered that their female literacy rate was twice as bad as the neighboring communities. And that sparked a revolution of women's literacy campaigns led by the local traditional authorities in that community. Then 10, social accountability. What are the mechanisms in the Kenyan and the county governance system for people to know what their entitlements to public services are, what to do if they're not being properly met? How can they work together with government to improve the situation? And then finally, a graduation ceremony, which is what you saw in that Mexico picture. So, you know, we all love celebrations, and this could be a time for the graduates of the course to bring their friends who might want to take the next course, and for the press to hear the success stories of the members of the community. So each session is designed so that there is some homework by the participants before that session, reflection in that session on what was accomplished in the previous section. We've clearly defined learning objectives for each of the elements of this curriculum. And the next steps are really to prepare the manuals, do as Zippy was saying, the training of trainers, and really begin that process. This transformation will be visible. When you walk into a well-organized community, you can feel it in your heart. People are, as one of my colleagues said, when I first visit the communities, they come with their wish list that they want to be given. When I go back 6 months later, they have their list of things they want to brag about, that they want to celebrate. The organization of equal numbers of men and women in community leadership planning groups is very, very essential. And I did want to mention that in the epicenter strategy, people are strengthening their capacity as they are doing things. So the fact that there could be integrated activity planning going on, that people are not only learning, but sharing their accomplishments as they go through this 6-week course will be very important. One of the tools that the movement has developed is this CLD assessment tool. And we think it's very motivating. And so I know the movement's going to be having a training in that tool recently. That'll be a very useful thing for the community-based trainers. I did want to mention, and this is an advertisement, but as the county builds its training centers, you may want to integrate other activities with them, because that woman that we saw earlier with her baby on her back, she would like nothing better than to not have to walk so many distances to access so many services. So if like training farms and health centers and food banks and food machinery, if somehow that can all be in the same location as these community training centers, as a co-location, it's one of the things women always have asked for. So with that, I will stop sharing and just repeat how pleased I am to be able to join you in creating this curriculum, because I think it can be used not only in all the counties of Kenya, but really in all the subnationals across Africa. Back to you, Steve.
Wow, thanks very much, John, for that elaborate presentation. And I think you've been able to see the approach that we are collectively taking in terms of developing the CLD school. And based on that curriculum, that the draft curriculum outline that has been shared, you see a very exciting things coming up, and you can just imagine if the implementation of that will happen very soon, the kind of transformation that we are going to see, not just in Makueni, but across the other counties as well, the other 46 counties as well. So thank you very much, John, for that. And so I would like to now take this opportunity to welcome the governor to share with us some remarks. It's always a pleasure to listen to him, to listen to his words of wisdom, and to just get to learn from him. So Professor Kibwana, it's my pleasure to welcome you to give a few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve, and to John, and all the colleagues, Zippy, all the colleagues on this space. to thank, to thank all of you, and particularly those who are helping us, especially John, in terms of beginning to entrench a movement that can be revolutionary on our continent. And it might appear as if it's a small beginning, but I am persuaded that this is something that is going to be very influential on the continent. And I think a time will come when we will be able to say, when we started, it looked like a small thing, and it has really grown. Just like what John said about community members themselves being, when they're initiated into this kind of thinking, they come with a wish list. And later, they really come with a list of the things that they have done and are very proud of. And I think the same analogy will work for the subnationals, for the countries, for the continent, as is happening in Mexico and some other places. I think today it's wisdom we got from Zippy and from John, in terms of the very, very short steps that are being taken in terms of growing this idea. And of course, I'm very appreciative of all the people I hear from Kenya and from Uganda and from elsewhere. And I think the idea was, as we have this movement for community-led development, Kenyan chapter, and we have, of course, the global movement. The idea now was to say, after the MOU, can we unpack it? Can we have a joint plan for 5 years, for 1 year? And then can we do the curriculum? And I think from the sharing, that has been done very, very, very well in terms of the plan for 1 year from the MOU of 5 years. And the curriculum, which also John said, is not a question of just being used in Makueni. It will be used in all the counties of Kenya and actually in terms of the continent. And of course, now the idea of the school itself, given the Mexican experience, how also we can roll the school, and some of the things Zippy has said we are trying to do to roll the school. I think in terms of from a general point of view, I think what we are trying to achieve through Makueni, Makueni is just like a guinea pig. It provides us with a pilot, but the idea should always be, how do you do this for the entire country? And we go to the continent. And of course, there are places where this is already happening. So at some point, we will, through research, know these places and see how to amalgamate all these initiatives. And even what John said of Uganda, the fact that currently there could be an issue, but it still means even in some difficult situations, you have people who are trying to do this and it will grow. So that again gives me hope that this can grow anywhere, and it must grow, all over the continent. All these issues we talk about, poverty, how to alleviate it, and all that kind of stuff. With this community-led development, this is one way of attacking, that extreme poverty, and so on and so forth. And I think from our experience, and from what we are doing together, like now we are thinking through, how do we domesticate this from the international level, from what the work of John, how do we domesticate this? And that's why there's a Kenyan chapter, and hopefully a chapter, in all the countries of the continent. So it is this now thinking through in trying to establish the system, offering thought leadership. And I think the players who are doing this with, leadership and assistance from John, I think this is a very important phase. And the more, of course, we will meet and we will think through this, the better. So that we will get to the point where we also begin to identify, like, the two co-presidents of Makueni, of the community governance. We will begin to identify actors in the subnational level, in the grassroots, actors who are champions of community-led development, and the groups that are also going to participate, so that we move from the thought leadership, from trying to establish the system, the theoretical underpinning and all that, then to the actors within the communities, so that we have ultimately the ownership of CLD by the communities. And of course, a buy-in by government staff and political leaders. And I think even in terms of just that sketch, we are, doing quite well, and that is why we will be in a position to now get to the curriculum, now begin to train people. And I'm looking forward to now that curriculum, now the meat of it. And I think that some work has been done there, so that we can now begin the trainings, particularly the trainings, but there are also all those other things that were said, which must be done in the 1 year. We can work without a physical school. There are virtual schools. You can now identify people. You can take them through the 6 weeks from more or less anywhere, so that we don't have to say that we must wait until we have a physical place and people identify it as a school. And so I think actually the curriculum is a large part of beginning the school and getting the trainers, the TOTs. And I hope we can that can be achieved, so that even in terms of expense, we may initially not have as much expense. Today in Makueni, we had national officials coming to do public participation for the medium-term plan for the next 5 years. This is the 4th one. And we actually introduced the idea. We told them that one of the ideas that can really help is this community-led development. So already, I think we have to begin sensitizing the national level, so that there can be a buy-in, so that this idea is also quote nationalized. And I think that we should look at those spaces, so that we begin, we begin to interest also the national level, other subnationals, and so on. As John said, if we can get the ministers of finance somewhere, and actually we had the permanent secretary of finance in the meeting, and it was a good meeting. We will also look at the transition, because when there is a transition, then there is some extra work needed, so that the idea is carried forward, and particularly in Makueni, where even there is now commitment of budgets to the community-led development, and also with the county government and with policy, with a law that will be passed. So it's important to secure this within the communities, and even the communities themselves should have guidelines, so that when there are guidelines about how they do their work, they also insist that this is how it must happen, and we don't want changes that obliterate what we have been doing. And that's why even the documentation of what has happened, actually we are going through an evaluation of all our work from 2013, so that there is also documentation of what has happened, so that we can build on that. We can build on that foundation. And I think looking at, for example, the African Charter on Values, Principles of Decentralization, and so on, I think it's also good to build what we are doing on the SDGs, on Agenda, Africa Agenda 2063, in Kenya Vision 2030, so that we can show that this is not necessarily a quote, an idea which is out of this world. It has legitimacy within the frameworks that exist, global, regional, and national. In the curriculum, there is number 4 is about mobilizing citizens for mass action, something like that. When we used to challenge authoritarian governments, we talked about mass action. So that word could be thought differently by some of the governments. They might think that we want to get them out of office. So I don't know what word we should use so that we are sensitive to some of their fears. We just tell them that we are bringing hands and voices to the work. We are not trying to get you out of office. And I don't know whether in the curriculum there is something about dispute resolution. It might be, I don't know, that it's in number 10, social accountability. So that we have therefore that curriculum for transformation, for impact, for results, for having true citizens. But I'm very, very excited. The idea is just to keep on doing the work so that we strengthen in our context, Kenyan context, we strengthen the Kenyan chapter. Steve, we do the pilot that we are doing. We take this to other counties, also through the Open Government Initiative, because there are some similarities, and the national level is prosecuting that Open Government Initiative through the Office of the Deputy President. And Elgeyo Marakwet is also doing quite well in this area. And then eventually to see how we compare with other African countries, what is happening there, and we synergize. And because I am persuaded that this is really one of the most critical things that should happen to attack the kind of poverty that we keep on talking about. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you very much, Prof. We really appreciate your thoughts and your words of wisdom, and of course, most importantly, your commitment and your leadership in all these arrangements. And I think you've raised very important points, that we don't have to wait to have a physical school for us to commence implementing the curriculum, which I think is something that we can, it's a low-hanging fruit that we can pick and run with. And another important thing on sensitizing the national government, that's a great idea. Of course, we will revise that bit on mass action. We are about mass development. So we'll look at that. And also the idea on ADR, I think maybe it's there, we captured it, but not explicitly. So we will try and bring it out more explicitly. Yes, and of course, maybe I could invite John to give some few words on that note.
Yes, thank you, Governor. You're certainly a great ambassador for community-led development. We really appreciate your thoughtfulness, and particularly this very specific advice you've given us. I've noted it all down, and I'm sure that my Kenyan colleagues will take it to heart, and we'll get this rolling and these pilot sessions done as quickly as possible. Also just, you know, I want to endorse Zippy's recommendation of having a CLD kitty fund of some kind to be able to spark community action of course, in this context of bringing hands and voices to be able to facilitate that. So I know I've hearing your words, and I'm more energetic than ever to support the Kenya team to move into action on this curriculum. And if there's any other thoughts you have in the middle of the night that you want us to know about, just you know where to find me. So, and you know where to find Steve, and you know where to find Zippy. So we're at your service, and we so appreciate your leadership.
Thank you very much, John. I'd also like to make a special thanks to my counterparts, Caroline Maringa, who she's with the African Capacity Alliance. She joined me during the workshop at the coast, and I really appreciate her contribution toward the development of this curriculum. So thanks very much, Carol. Now, without much ado, I'd like to now pass it over to Celine Korir, who is the co-chair of the MCLD Kenya chapter. Celine.
So maybe I can say something before you do that.
Sure, please, Zippy.
Yeah, just to appreciate what John has just said about how to support Makueni at the end of the day, to be able to have a consolidative effort towards the implementation of the community-led development. I want to believe that as community-led development is consolidated, the priorities under community-led development, as they are consolidated under a unified fund, it is easier for access by donors to be able to fund Makueni more. I know earlier we were very enthusiastic about the mandate, what we called Makueni Local Development Organization, which is not clear, doesn't have a clear future so far. But the question still remains, given the little amounts that are coming from the national government counties, how well can the CLD monies at the county level be so consolidated for clarity? Any donor would like to see a demonstration of the management of community-led development funds. And therefore, that's a great idea that would help us move to the next level by telling donors, this is the much we can afford, but the community's needs are this much. And therefore, could you fund this proposal? Because most of them do not fund governments, especially those that we are looking at, they already would have a space at the county level with the support of the National Secretariat to see more monies and to assist us get more monies going forward. That is the only way we would be able to create the capacities that we are looking for, and at the same time be able to meet the basic development that ends hunger, that ends poverty, that does all those things the SDGs are telling us about at the local level. So I just wanted to really say that with excitement how I felt when John did mention that, because that is the way to go, and it demonstrates the self-governance of the people's government and the strength of the people's government as an autonomous body, yet a semi-autonomous in terms of receiving support and goodwill from the government of the day. I appreciate again on the school. Actually, before construction, we would and we should be able to pilot the session of training to see how this can happen and for how long in terms of the timelines that we gave in the curriculum development. At the same time, even being able to engage the capacities of the community resource volunteers and the people that are to come on board in terms of being the TOTs at community level. Yes, this is something that can begin going forward, even as a waiting for the main school. We wish to let you know that we have thought through the school, and on this side, our thinking is that it will be having both offices for particular issues that concern community-led development, meaning that it will host the county administration, it would host the units that are responsible for public participation, community-led development, community resource mobilization, and research and development in community-led development. So we are excited to see how this comes to fruition going forward, and also hoping that even going forward in transition, our governor will be able to move forward to continue being an epitome of support, even at national level, going forward. Thank you.
Oh, thanks very much, Zippy, for those amazing thoughts. And I think it will only be fair for me to give the governor some time to maybe give a few remarks regarding what John and Zippy has shared about the CLD funds. Yeah.
I think I don't want to add more to what both John and Zippy have said on that issue. I think we can rest it there.
Great to hear that. Now I'll pass it on to my colleague Celine, like I stated, to close it out for us.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's humbling, very, very humbling to give the closing remark. Your Excellency, the Governor, County Government of Makueni, Professor Kibwana, it has been really inspiring just listening to you, and it has been you've been such a source of encouragement for the years I have known you. And so I want to add my voice on behalf of the Kenya chapter that we are indeed pleased and honored to have you join us today. We know it's really a busy season for you, and especially with the general elections coming up in August. But I want to say that you really are a model of good governance. You love transparency, you love accountability, you love to see the voices of the people included. I mean, everything that we continue to hear about Makueni is just a demonstration that development happens when local voices are tapped and channeled into development. And so thank you so much. As a chapter, we acknowledge and appreciate the county's commitment and implementation of our MOU signed in 2021. Zippy and team, we can thank you enough. You have been so dedicated. You have demonstrated such high level of dedication to this cause. And each time I listen to Zippy speak, and of course, under the leadership of the governor, I always like, where can we transport and translate this whole team into a national, at the top level of this country, so that we can really get to achieve the domestication that the governor was talking about. So Zippy, thank you so much, together with your team. The wealth of knowledge that you demonstrate each time you present is commendable. And it's our prayer that even with all the transition you're talking about, keep on mentioning transition, but I like how you put it, transition, and that the governor will transit into the national government. That is hopeful, and we are praying about that. Yes, because we are really praying that you can be in a position where the whole of this knowledge and all this practice can actually be kind of escalated upward and across the nations. I believe that if we definitely implement this joint work plan to the latter, then we realize really a true empowered community. And I think Makueni is a role model. And we are looking forward to an opportunity where, honestly, people and other counties can learn from Makueni so that we can we can all get to understand how community-led development is actually facilitating the achievement of SDGs, Vision 2030, and the Big Four agenda that the government has. For you, Steve, I can't close without also thanking you. Your dedication and commitment to this process is immeasurable. We really appreciate your in-country leadership. And so we really want to appreciate and thank you so much. John Conrad, we want you to know that you appreciate the steady leadership that you continue to offer the MCLD, not only for Kenya, but globally, but also particularly your specific support to Kenya. So we just want to join all of us in thanking you very, very much. And as we close, that we always say in Africa that we tie the leaf. So as we tie the leaf, a way to untie it for the next meeting, as will be agreed, we just want to wish you a great evening. It has been inspiring, and everyone who has been listening definitely will want to be the first in the next meeting. So thank you very much. God bless you. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you very much. And I want to wish all of you a fantastic evening. John, I wish you a fantastic day. And God bless. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye. Nice weekend, team. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you, MCLD, for the session.